Almost 30 years ago, the Jamaica Public Service, the island's sole electricity supplier, was privatized. The entity, which had been in state hands for almost 30 years by that point, was hemorrhaging money, along with an aged and teetering infrastructure, as well as taking place during a time when the nation was still navigating the streams of a financial meltdown. It should be noted that during this time, the government was broke in ways that kids today can only imagine in bad dreams. A sale of the entity was deemed the best move. The move to privatize the entity was always a controversial one, however. One which the public, by and large, still does not agree with. But it was done, and the state sold its majority stake, leaving itself with a paltry 19%, the outstanding 80% being held by Marubeni, 40%, and the Korea East-West Power Company, again 40%, respectively, both of which are ridiculously successful companies. As I'm sure we all know, following the passage of Hurricane Melissa, JPS stated they suffered damage up to $350 million and that they were unable to get the money to rebuild on the private markets. This because their license was about to expire. That, coupled with the fact that the government of Jamaica had signaled its intention not to renew its license on the existing grounds, meant that they had serious issues, according to JPS, in raising the money on the private markets, and so they got a loan of $150 million from the government. Now, it was also reported that some $450 million from the over $6 billion in loans and grants that have been secured for rebuilding the country has been earmarked for the JPS and its effort to provide electricity to the areas which have been hardest hit by the hurricane. Now, at this point, red flags, flares, and bullhorns should have been going off. How is it that a company in a region notorious for hurricanes has not set aside a sizable portion of money to rebuild post-hurricane? How is it that a majority shareholder who operates in the region already, the Korea East-West Power Company already operates in Haiti, did not have a kitty, did not have money prepared for this? Why is it that the parent companies and the majority shareholders of those companies, to boot, are refusing to provide a cash infusion to JPS and instead are seeking to get loans from the government of Jamaica to the tune of $150 million to rebuild? Is it that the JPS believed that they would get an extension, so they didn't really work hard on looking for the money? Is it that it's simply cheaper to take out the loan than use their own capital to rebuild as they seek to get a new license agreement? Or is it that they simply had no intentions of staying, they're going to abandon the region with this increasingly costly natural disasters, so again, they didn't look hard on the private market for money? Either way, major issues are highlighted here with JPS and how they have operated following the hurricane. There are also lessons that need to be learned from this and put in stone as a result of this debacle. JPS, that is, the electric company and the electricity they provide, are critical areas for the nation. JPS, as the sole provider of power island-wide, has us by the short and curlies. If they say jump, we say how high. We see this with the people who bridge light and otherwise steal electricity. Instead of JPS eating that loss or going into communities to take down the lines, they pass it on to the paying customer, and we can do nothing about it. More pressing, however, if the private owners of JPS are unable to secure money, then, quite frankly, the operations will cease or at least dwindle, which will negatively impact the nation. There is no rhyme or reason why a critical sector like JPS should be in private hands, and this hurricane has shown it. The fact that a private company running this critical sector, monopoly, has come to the government and said, "Oh, the job is too big for them," should mean that it is removed from their hands and never put in private hands again. It cannot be that it is rampant capitalism, but that you are too big to fail, so you get bailed out and remain private. No. If the job is too big for you, then give it to the state, which has no issue running up losses when it comes to providing a public service. Now, what the level of acceptable loss is always up for debate. But that very argument simply strengthens my point that there is an acceptable level of loss when operating a public service. This should also serve as a warning for people who wish to see the Water Commission privatized or further enmeshed into the private sector. It is the state that will be left with the bag, be it PNP, JLP, or a third party which forms government. Any company that has a monopoly rights on critical sectors will in the end come to the state cap in hand for bailouts. It is only the state that can grant these companies exorbitant loans and then extend the repayment dates because the state isn't going anywhere. It is only the state that will do long-term infrastructure investment and development because they aren't going anywhere and they can absorb the short and medium-term losses. The private company can only afford to lose so much and then no more before it withdraws from these industries, as seen with Puerto Rico and its privatized electricity grid, or the United Kingdom and its privatized water, and the many issues that it is facing in that sector. Jamaicans have a saying, "Take sleep, mark death," and it is very apt in this moment. This should be the wake-up call. At the very least, the major utilities should be in state hands. These cannot be left to the whims of the private sector, which will and do view these entities in a wholly different manner than the rest of us. They view it as a means of capital extraction, while we view it as the security of the nation. The two views cannot be woven together, and as a result, we must nationalize them. The idea of nationalization is not a vote loser. If there's one thing there is a majority support for in this country, it is changing how JPS operates, and nationalization would go a long way to do that. We have a once-in-a-generation opportunity to right the wrong that was done a generation ago, and we have real-world examples of why leaving JPS in private hands is harmful. Let us really hope, that we take the chance and put it back into public ownership.